You've spent your whole life trying to prove your worth to a man who may never have learned to show you his. Stop for a moment and feel the weight of that sentence. Don't just read it, feel it. Because while you were busy building a life that seemed functional, while you were collecting achievements and trying to be the version of yourself that you imagined would be accepted by the world, there was something silent operating in the shadows of your psyche. A voice, a presence, a constant judgment that never rests. That voice didn't come out of nowhere. It has a name, it has an origin, and it begins much earlier than you think. It is born in the first look of approval you never received. The first time you felt you needed to be different to be loved. The first time you learned that your value was conditioned by your performance. The father is the first mirror in which a child sees their value reflected in the world. He is the first authority, the first judge, the first example of how someone earns respect and recognition. And if that mirror was distorted, if that authority was absent, overly critical, or emotionally unavailable, something fundamental was broken in the formation of your identity. We're not talking about blaming anyone. We're talking about understanding that within you there is an inner father, a symbolic representation that silently drives your ambitions, your fears, your relationships with authority, and especially the cruel way you talk to yourself when you fail. Carl Jung knew this. He knew that we carry within us not only the person who raised us, but the archetypal energy they represented. And when that energy is wounded, when the first hero in our life disappoints or abandons us emotionally, we spend the rest of our lives trying to repair something that was not our responsibility to fix. Today you will discover why you always feel that you are not enough, why success never brings the peace it promised, and why, no matter how much you achieve, there is always a voice whispering that you could have done better. You are 3 years old. You are playing on the living room floor and building something with wooden blocks, maybe a tower, maybe a house, maybe just a colorful pile that makes sense in your child's imagination. You stand up proudly and run over to him. "Dad, look what I made." And then it happens. Either he doesn't look because he's too busy with important things, or he glances quickly and says, "Very good," without really seeing. Or worse, he sees it and comments that it could be more organized, taller, more like something real. At that moment, something inside you learns a lesson you will carry with you forever. Your worth must be proven. This is the origin of the paternal wound. Not necessarily a dramatic trauma, but the absence of something fundamental. The unconditional recognition of your value as a person, regardless of what you do or don't do. A father is much more than a biological parent. Symbolically, he represents the first authority, the first standard of success, the first reference for what it means to be strong in the world. As a child, you were unable to question his methods. You just absorbed, this is how you earn love. This is how you deserve attention. This is how you avoid disappointment. And if what you absorbed was that love comes with conditions, that approval must be earned, that you only have value when you produce something useful, then your relationship with authority, including authority over yourself, was distorted from the start. Some parents were physically present, but emotionally absent. They worked too much, had their own unhealed wounds, or simply didn't know how to show unconditional affection. Others were overly critical, turning your every attempt into a lesson on how you could be better. And some just weren't there, leaving a void in the form of a question. If my own father didn't think I was worthy of staying, who else will? The most painful thing is that, in your childlike innocence, you didn't blame him. You blamed yourself. If I were smarter, more obedient, more like what he wanted, maybe. And so began your lifelong journey of trying to be enough for someone who may never have learned to see enough in anything. Now, decades later, you still carry that boy or girl inside you. That child who built block towers and ran to show them off, hoping to see pride in the eyes of the one who mattered most. Only now the towers are diplomas, jobs, relationships, achievements, and you're still running to show them off, still waiting for someone to finally say, "I'm proud of you, you're enough." But there's something you need to understand, something that will change everything when you truly absorb it. That approval you seek does not exist outside of you. It never did. And until you look inside and find the source of that endless thirst for recognition, you will continue to build towers for people who may never learn to see them. The paternal wound is not about what he did or didn't do. It's about what you're still doing to yourself because of it. Wake up, work, pay bills, sleep, and repeat it all over again the next day. Life goes by like this, and one day you realize that time has slipped away. Dreams were postponed. Opportunities went unnoticed. This happens because no one ever taught you how to see the game of life the right way. But there is another path. If you want to reach the next level, you need to access new knowledge. And that's exactly what you'll find in the White Rabbit Codes. This book will open your eyes to what is really happening. You'll understand why you keep getting stuck in the same cycles, learn how to escape autopilot, and start seeing the opportunities that were always there. And finally, you'll make decisions that truly lead to the life you've always wanted. If you feel ready for this change, the link is in the pinned comment. You'll be surprised at how simple it can be to increase your prosperity. Success is a decision. The choice is yours. You got your dream job, the promotion you've been chasing for years, the recognition you've always wanted. And then, just when you should be celebrating, a strange feeling takes over. The emptiness is still there. The voice in your head, instead of finally shutting up, whispers something even more disturbing. Now what? Is this it? When are you going to really achieve something that matters? That's when you realize the trap. No matter how many times you climb the mountain, there's always a bigger mountain. No matter how many people applaud you, it's never the right person applauding loud enough. And you begin to suspect that maybe it's not about achievement. Maybe it's about something much deeper, something you didn't even know you were looking for. The paternal wound manifests itself as a thirst that can never be quenched, a compulsive search for validation that masquerades as healthy ambition, but is really the desperate attempt of an inner child to finally hear, "I'm proud of you. You matter. You are enough." Look at your romantic relationships. Do you see the pattern? Are you attracted to emotionally distant people who make you work for their affection? Or to authority figures? Older, more experienced people who unconsciously represent the parental approval you never fully received? And when they give you attention, you feel on top of the world. When they pull away, you despair, trying to understand what you did wrong. Because for you, love is still a performance. Relationships are still a test. And intimacy is still scary, because intimacy means being seen for who you really are, not the improved version you think you need to be to deserve affection. At work, history repeats itself. You don't just do your job, you have to be the best. Not because you like what you do, but because each project is a new opportunity to finally impress the authority figure. Every piece of negative feedback is a stab in the back of the inner child, who still believes that your value depends on the approval of others. Every compliment is a drug you desperately consume, knowing that the effect won't last. And worst of all, you've developed a toxic relationship with failure. For you, mistakes aren't learning opportunities, they're proof. Proof that that critical voice was always right, that you're really not good enough, that all your successes were just luck or a facade, and that now the truth has finally come to light. Your body has learned to carry this constant tension, the stiff shoulders of someone carrying an invisible weight, the clenched jaw of someone who is always defending themselves from criticism that could come at any moment, the tight stomach of someone who lives with the constant feeling that they are about to be exposed as a fraud. You talk to yourself in a way you would never talk to a friend. You use words that hurt, that belittle, that punish. And when someone asks where this fierce self-criticism comes from, you don't know how to answer. Because this voice is so old, so familiar, that you've forgotten that it once came from outside. The cruel irony is that the more you achieve externally, the emptier the achievement becomes. Because deep down, you know you're trying to impress a ghost. You're offering trophies to someone who may never have learned to celebrate. You're shouting at someone who may never have learned to truly listen. And then you ask yourself, when am I going to stop living like I'm still 5 years old, running around the house with a drawing in my hand, looking for someone to finally look at me and say I'm the most beautiful thing in the world? The answer is more disturbing than you might think. Because maybe the problem isn't that no one ever said that to you. Maybe the problem is that you never learned to say it to yourself. At 3 in the morning, when the world is quiet and you should be asleep, it appears. Not the common insomnia that everyone knows, but that specific rumination, that internal court that settles in your mind and begins to revisit every decision, every word, every moment of the day when you could have been better, smarter, more impressive. It's the voice of your inner father, and it never rests. Carl Jung called this the archetype, not the flesh and blood man who raised you, but the symbolic representation you have constructed of him, the energetic pattern that now lives within your psyche and commands your decisions without you realizing it. It's as if you carry an invisible judge inside you, always present, always evaluating, always finding ways to remind you that you're not there yet. This voice speaks with the authority of someone who has known your weaknesses forever. It knows exactly which words to use to paralyze you, which memories to bring up to make you question your abilities, which fears to activate to keep you small and safe. And most disturbing of all, it uses your own voice to speak. You won't be able to do it. Everyone will realize you don't know what you're doing. Who do you think you are? You should be grateful you've made it this far. These phrases sound familiar, don't they? That's because you've heard them so often that they've become your natural internal language. The inner father isn't necessarily malicious. Often, he believes he's protecting you. If I criticize you first, no one else will be able to hurt you. If I keep you grounded, you won't suffer the disappointment of dreaming too big. If I constantly remind you of your flaws, you'll work to fix them and finally be accepted. But there is a crucial difference between the real parent and this symbolic parent who lives in your mind. The real parent had their own limitations, their own wounds, their own fears. They probably did the best they could with the emotional tools they had. The inner parent, however, is a distorted version, amplified by years of childhood interpretations and unprocessed fears. And here's what hurts the most. You're afraid of becoming like him, but you're also afraid of never being good enough for him. It's an impossible cycle. You reject his characteristics, but you crave his approval. You swear you'll be different, but you find yourself repeating the exact same patterns. You criticize his limitations, but you feel guilty for surpassing him. There is hidden anger there, anger that you may never have allowed yourself to feel completely, because good daughters and sons don't get angry at their parents. But this repressed anger is like toxic fuel that feeds your self-criticism, your impatience with yourself, your difficulty in accepting that you are human and have the right to make mistakes. Anger is not your enemy. It is the energy you need to finally set boundaries, including boundaries with that inner voice that has taken over your mind. It is what will give you the courage to say, "Enough. I no longer need your approval to exist. I no longer need your criticism to improve. I no longer need to carry your fear as if it were my own." Because the truth is that you never had a self-esteem problem. You had a hetero-esteem problem seeking in others what only you can give yourself. And as long as you keep trying to heal your father's wound through external achievements, through other people's approval, through the relentless pursuit of being good enough for someone out there, you will be feeding exactly what you need to transcend. The inner father won't go away, but he can be transformed. He can learn a new language, a new way of talking to you. Instead of being critical, he can become a guide. Instead of being a judge, he can become a loving protector. But first, you need to recognize that he's there. And more importantly, you need to take authority over your own inner life. Is this content making you reflect and sparking new ways of thinking? If so, click the super thanks button just below the video. It's a way to say thank you and help me bring more content like this to those who need to reflect on life. There is a moment in every man's and woman's life when they must make a decision that will define the rest of their existence. To remain a child forever, or to finally become a parent to themselves. I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about internal authority, about stopping looking outside yourself for what can only come from within, about understanding that the approval you've sought your whole life, that validation that always seemed just one achievement away, was never anyone's responsibility but your own. Becoming your own parent means taking control of the inner voice that guides you. It means looking at that wounded child inside you and saying, "I'm going to take care of you now. I'm going to give you what you've always needed, and I'm not going to wait for someone else to do it for me." It's a painful process, because it means letting go of the fantasy that one day someone will come along and fix everything that was broken in your childhood. It means accepting that you, and only you, have the power to rewrite the way you talk to yourself, how you relate to your ambitions, how you deal with your mistakes. Self-parenting is not self-indulgence. It's not being permissive of destructive behaviors or running away from responsibilities. It's being strict, but with compassion. It's having high expectations, but without cruelty. It's understanding that growing up means learning to be both the protective parent and the child who needs protection. You need to learn to talk to yourself as you would talk to a child you love unconditionally. When you make a mistake, instead of tearing yourself apart with fierce self-criticism, you ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I do better next time?" When you achieve something, instead of diminishing your victory or moving on to the next goal, you stop and acknowledge, "I did that. I am capable. I am proud of myself." The anger you've carried all these years? It can become fuel for change. Not destructive anger that consumes you, but sacred anger that moves you. Anger at having wasted so much time seeking external approval. Anger at having spoken so badly to yourself. Enough anger to say, "Never again." And yes, you will encounter that old fear, that feeling of being selfish or arrogant for finally giving yourself what you always needed. Because your father's wound taught you that self-love is narcissism, that taking care of yourself is abandoning others. But that's just another lie you learned when you were too young to question it. Taking care of yourself is not selfish, it is responsibility. Because only when you stop looking to others for what you can give yourself can you truly relate to others. Only when you stop needing constant validation can you love without despair. Only when you become emotionally self-sufficient can you genuinely contribute to the lives of others. The critical inner parent doesn't disappear overnight, but you can train it, educate it, transform it. Every time it shows up with its destructive language, you can intervene. Thanks for your concern, but I'll take it from here. And then you talk to yourself the way you've always deserved to be talked to. This is the true individuation that Jung described. It is not separating yourself from the world or the people who raised you. It is separating yourself from the need to be driven by external forces. It is discovering that within you there has always been the capacity to be your own guide, your own protector, your own parent. And when that happens, something magical is revealed. You realize that you never had to prove anything to anyone, that your value was never in question, that you were always enough, but you were looking in the wrong places to confirm it. The paternal wound is not healed when you finally win the approval of the father who disappointed you. It is healed when you understand that you never needed that approval to be complete. It is healed when you stop chasing authority figures carrying around your childhood drawings, hoping that someone will finally tell you they are beautiful. It is healed when you look at your own drawings and say, "These are mine, I made them, and they are perfect just the way they are." Because in the end, the only approval that really matters, the only one that can fill that old void, is your own. And it has always been available. You just had to stop looking outside long enough to find it inside. Now you know. The question that remains is, what will you do with this knowledge? If you've made it this far, you've already taken a step beyond most people. You're subscribed to the channel, you watch the videos, you reflect on every idea. Now the question is, how far do you want to take this? If you want to take the next step and truly apply this knowledge to your life, the White Rabbit Codes is ready for you. The link is in the pinned comment. Remember, success is a decision. The choice is yours. Count on me and follow the White Rabbit.